Now, Anne Donnellan recently launched her latest collection of writings in Ennis. Valera Public Library, right near us here at Clare FM, was the venue for the Clare launch of the Ennis native's newest collection, If Only We Could Bottle It. Let's find out more about the collection and the launch from Anne Donnellan, who's sitting directly across from me now. Anne, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Alan, and thank you for having me on again.
No problem at all. And in the spirit of Christmas, you have brought a gift, which is said collection, If Only We Could Bottle It. Can I just say, the cover's beautiful. Who did that?
Actually, a friend of mine who was an artist, and her name is Pat Byrne. And it's
is this of anywhere in particular?
It is, yes. It's Ballyconneely Cove. It's the most beautiful place in Connemara. And she launched her collection, her art collection, this year in Nooks of Art, and she asked me to open it. So I decided I would write a poem for the collection. It's in the last page of the book. I'm not going to read it today, but it was an interesting experiment, and people really liked it, the idea of the poetry complementing art, which is nothing new. You know, ekphrastic poems have been there as long as poetry has been there. Well,
it's a beautiful cover for what no doubt is a beautiful book, and I'm sure you have that sense of achievement anytime you manage, any writer, be it poetry or novels, completing an entire body of work for publication is a significant moment, because there's so much blood, sweat and tears that goes into it.
That's absolutely right. And I suppose the whole notion of poetry, as I've said it before, you know, writing a poem is such an organic experience. You go into a room, there is no screen, there's no technology. It's something that comes from the depths. We don't know where it comes from.
Probably as well, there's no technology to distract you.
Absolutely. And it makes it more valuable then, and more obviously truthful, because, you know, poetry is the language of truth. And we're sharing this. So the whole notion of putting it into print and then sharing it with readers is really the process of poetry being completed. Because then people can, it's really a two-way conversation, like all art is a conversation, whether it is the artist drawing the picture or the poet or the sculptor. There's a conversation there with the public, and that's what makes all these forms so special, because as you know, we're on the fight against resistance against the screen, and we've got to try and, you know, maintain this, you know, innate art form that we have, particularly as Irish people, because we have an amazing celebration of the print, you know, in our history. So we just don't want to lose sight of that. And it's so important.
We're the land of saints and scholars, not the land of saints and TikTokers.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I have
you
to
can have that one for free. Yeah.
That's
the name of your new book.
A good opening line for a new poem.
You would have been in with us around this time 3 years ago to talk about Witness, your debut collection.
That's right.
With the, I suppose, passing of time, how do you feel about your Witness, the reception to it, and I suppose how it led you into If Only We Could Bottle It?
Well, you see, you can't stop really once you start writing. I don't think there's any end to it, and you don't write to the point of producing a book. You write because something in you, you know, it dictates that, and of course, like every art form or anything we do in life, we're always improving. So I feel my work is much better now this time than the last outing, but that's probably my opinion. And that's nice as well, to see a bit of, I suppose, more perfection in it. And again, it's the whole notion of selling it and putting the book out there for people to enjoy something that you've created. And that's what it's really about. As I said, that truth, that engagement, that process of going into some issue and brings somebody else who reads it or listens to it clarity and maybe some solace at times. And it's that opening of dialogue and that way forward sometimes you get from reading a piece. And that's really important.
Can I ask you about the approach to If Only We Could Bottle It? And it is a collection of writing. So with your works, do you try and create an overarching theme for each of the pieces, each of the poems in them, or is this a very disparate, and I don't mean disparate in terms of any negative connotations, but it is just literally a collection of thematically different works?
Not really. There are 3 parts in this book. In my first book, it was just one part altogether. And, you know, I suppose in this particular book there's the past, which is essentially about the inspiration I received as a child growing up in the countryside in County Clare, and that's all about stuff that happened in my life more than 50 years ago. So it brings in immigration, it brings in sadness, it brings in religion, and then in this middle section is more political. It's about the current day situation. There are poems about climate change, obviously poems about the war, because the poet has the responsibility, I think, really to comment on understand what's going on, particularly injustices that are happening in the world. And then the last section is really the hopeful section. While the first section is quite enjoyable for readers, there's sadness in it. The last section is hope, the hope that nature gives us, the hope from the continuity of beauty, the hope from the mountains, the hope from the majestic Lake Lough Corrib where I am living in Menlo and Galway. All of that nature continues regardless of what's happening. It's always there. It's our never land, and we should never lose sight of that and be privileged that we are able to sit and enjoy it.
So the collection very much runs the gamut of your life. It's up to modern day current events, as you say, climate change and issues of modern concern, war and climate change. But you also there's a lot of nostalgic look backs to your childhood, and as you say, you emigrated to Galway 40 years ago, but obviously you're close by, so I'm sure you're back a lot and thinking about it. Did you find in the run into If Only We Could Bottle It, you were thinking more and more about your childhood and growing up in Clare, or is that always something you're thinking about and you just consciously decided to create works around those memories?
Really, I think our childhood is always with us, every one of us, and particularly in poetry. You know, if you only wrote about your childhood, that would be enough. There's so much that has occurred to us. That's our formative years. So I'm not even thinking about it. It just comes naturally to the fore when you sit to write, or even just to think about stuff. We're so influenced by that part of our lives.
I suppose that's the time of our lives, Anne, when you have that sense of innocence and magic and wonder that hasn't been beaten out of you by maturity and adulthood.
By maturity and schools.
And schools.
So the child in school and you're changed forever. And I come from the education background myself, spent all my life in schools. But yeah, that's true, Ellen, it is. So it's not unusual to be writing about your childhood.
The book uses very little punctuation. The description is to create a faultless rhythm. How does that stylistic choice help you express the rush of memories and emotions, the lack of punctuation?
Do you know, I don't know, because there's a lot of rhythm in it. There mightn't be punctuation, but I have a musicality in me as well, and that helps. And also, if you don't have punctuation in a poem, it kind of requires more work from the reader, which also requires them to concentrate more. And I think then if you're concentrating more on a piece, you're getting
more part of a tactic you use, so was it to make sure they're more engaged with your work?
By default.
Very clever.
By default. But that is the thing, you know, we all have our own styles, and that's what comes naturally to me. But there's quite a lot of rhythm in it. You will probably notice if you read through them all, but that's for over the Christmas, Ellen.
I'll be hard at it there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The title does suggest a desire to capture something fleeting. I mean, if you could bottle one specific moment or feeling from this collection, and I sense this may be perhaps, or could be wrong, one from your childhood, what would it be?
I think really I would bottle what nature gives us. There's nature in my childhood as well. I think if we can keep that for the bad times, keep the wonderful experiences we have with the outside, with the bewilderments of the West in Connemara, with the beauty of Kilkee, with the sea, with the green fields, with going for a walk, with the ritual of having a chat after Mass on a Sunday. They're all beautiful things, and you know, if you could bottle them, they'd keep us going, but unfortunately we can't. And also if we could bottle anger and all the other negative pieces we have in our lives, that is also a gift, and I suppose a skill many of us have to deal with disappointments. Yeah. So the title really could apply to any aspect of your own life.
You had the launch of If Only We Could Bottle It in Galway, but you weren't going to let the opportunity to have a Clare-specific launch pass, and fair play to you, had it at the Valera Library here near us at the station. Tell us about that, how it went. Was there a good turnout, and what it meant to you as a Clare person?
Yeah. Well, it was a brilliant turnout. I didn't even know all the people that were there, but they came because they knew there was a poet that once lived in Shanaway Road, and the Shanaway Road I knew going to school, I think might have had 10 houses, so now it's hundreds of houses. But because of that, even the interest factor brings people in, and I think it's the community aspects of it that really impressed me, and it also impressed the publishers who were there, and Frank the Golden, who launched it. He said, such an amount of people to come, and I think that's wonderful about poetry as well, that it's not just for poets or for people with high literary achievements. It's for everybody, and that's really important as well when you're in a library, a beautiful library like the Valera Library, that they see people coming off the street coming in, and I think that's just I found that really encouraging. And of course I sold a lot of books, and we had a great morning. Helps. It was very indeed, and it was very enjoyable, and I think it was a mixture of ages as well, which was lovely. There was a great diversity there, some very old people and some very, very young people. And I think they all went away with something. It's just, again, it was a nice outing that shows you how important the arts are in our lives because of the fact that they're so organic and so real.
If people want to get their hands on If Only We Could Bottle It, I'm sure it would make an ideal Christmas present. And where can they get it?
We have it in the Ennis bookshop. It's €15 and it's also in Charlie Burns in Galway. So it's a grand gift. And the thing about poetry is you can dip into one poem. You haven't to read the whole book, and you might dip into one another day. It doesn't require the same amount of time or that maybe a novel or another piece of writing would require. So it is a handy one to have, especially over the Christmas.
And speaking of
period.
One poem, would you finish by doing us the privilege of reading us a poem from If Only We Could Bottle It?
I was going to read the Christmas morning poem, but because I've just after meeting Brian Lohan there, we had a conversation and we had great celebration. Celebratory activity out there. I think I'll have to read the Clare hurling one.
Oh, do.
And I just had, it's the only, when I was coming down the road, I said, oh my God, I can't believe he's on. And
Brian will be tuned in the car now.
He knows, he will, of course. And again, fair play to the editor of the Clare Champion as well for, taking all these poems from me over the years, especially the hurling ones. It made a big difference to see them in print as well. Okay, and this is called Victory.
Okay.
Second last poem in the book, so there it is. Christy Moore's Listranvarna packs the Dublin air. Golden confetti sprinkles the stud-ruffled turf. Hurlers blazing from the wastelands of broken Munster hopes bombard victory's doors with their magical stickwork. Barely daring to believe in deep in added time with shimmies, swivel and flick of the slither, our steel-veined players wrestle in this brutal, beautiful game. Propel us over the sweet spot to that honour slot with the greats. On the Hogan stand we levitate. Fragments of heroism fall everywhere. Backstitch to Michael Cusack's 1884 cycle to Thurles from Carron. We thrive, roaring beneath revered banners of blue and saffron. No more nearlies and next day out. No more ifs or buts. We will raise Liam McCarthy over the Clare hills and dance with the hurler gods of our dreams.
Beautiful stuff, Anne, and we do all sincerely hope that is a description of a scenario that is going to unfold
for sure.
In summer 2026.
For sure, no doubt.
We'll keep the fingers crossed on that. Beautiful poem. That's Victory, the penultimate poem in the collection called If Only We Could Bottle It. Anne Donnellan, congratulations on it, and great you had such a brilliant launch as well. We hope for a great Christmas and New Year, and we'll talk to you again soon. Anne Donnellan with us on Morning Focus.